Hey everyone. So the events of the last 3 weeks or so in Gilroy, in El Paso, and in Dayton have highlighted the role of mental illness in mass shootings. And I'd like to talk about that role in a little bit more depth. So let's stipulate right off the top that if you walk into a church, a Walmart, a shopping center, a school, a movie theater, and start shooting people, you almost certainly are mentally ill. But let's also stipulate that the broad population of the mentally troubled is law-abiding, safe, good, and unthreatening. So the group of people I'm talking about are a minuscule subset of the mentally ill population, who are overwhelmingly peaceful and law-abiding. Let's also stipulate that the prevalence of mental illness is no different in this country than it is in any Western industrial country. And their incidence of mass shootings is dramatically lower than ours. So the mental illness itself is not the primary driver and determinant of mass shootings. Rather, it's the policies and safeguards that countries put into place to protect their citizens. That's what makes the difference. The mental illness is the same in all of these Western industrial countries. But there's also another variable to discuss, one that we don't talk about very often in polite society. What if the leader of the country, what if the President of the United States himself is mentally ill? What if the President has an impulsivity, a rage, a penchant for lying, a lack of empathy, and a casual cruelty that can serve as a trigger, a motivation, an incentive for those people out there who are struggling with antisocial, destructive impulses of their own? What is the relationship between those things? And in fact, is our president mentally ill? Well, I'd like to offer 10 observations of mine, and I'll let you draw your own conclusions as to whether this president is mentally ill. Number one, if an esteemed member of Congress has his home broken into, and he has a potentially dangerous confrontation with an intruder, and afterward you mock him, ridicule him, and celebrate the fact that his house was broken into, you just might be mentally ill. Number two, if you revel at one of your rallies in the fascist chant, "Send her back," for a full 13 seconds, and then the next day when asked about it by a reporter, tell that reporter, "Oh, I tried to stop it," knowing the video will absolutely contradict you, you might be mentally ill. Number three, if you fabricate a claim that thousands and thousands of Muslims celebrated in Jersey City, New Jersey after 9/11, and once a New York Times reporter debunks your statement and says there's no evidence to support it, you mock the neurological condition that reporter has. You might be mentally ill. Number four, if a female journalist asks you a tough question during a debate, and you angrily imply afterward that she must have been having her period to ask you a question like that, and further go on to encourage your supporters to harass her, you might be mentally ill. Number five, if you brag to somebody that you barely know that one of the perks of celebrity is that it allows you to grope women against their will with impunity, you might be mentally ill. Number six, if you tell participants at one of your rallies that if they beat up a protester, that you will cover their legal expenses, you might be mentally ill. Number seven, If you stand in front of the CIA's Wall of Honor, the wall commemorating the fallen operatives of the CIA, and the thing that you most want to talk about is how many times you've been on the cover of Time magazine, your mistreatment by the press, and the size of your inauguration crowd, you might be mentally ill. Number 8, if you tell Howard Stern that owning the Miss Teen USA contest allows you the opportunity to barge in on contestants while they're undressing, and you can get away with it because you own the business, you might be mentally ill. Number 9, if you pretend to be your own publicist and you call up the society pages of the newspapers to brag about your social and sexual conquests, you might be mentally ill. And finally, number 10, if you are engaged in a debate during the primary season and you take time out in the middle of that debate to reassure the audience about your penis size, as Trump did on March 3rd, 2016, you might be mentally ill. Now, as regular watchers of my blog know, I'm a progressive Democrat, so why take my word for it? Let's look at some of these statements that Republicans have made about Donald Trump. Lindsey Graham on CNN in 2016, talking directly to Trump supporters. Here's what you're buying. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He doesn't represent my party. He doesn't represent the values that the men and women who wear the uniform are fighting for. Or how about Ted Cruz? Trump is a narcissist at a level that the country has never seen. Or how about Tim Pawlenty, former governor of Minnesota? He is unsound, uninformed, unhinged, and unfit to be president of the United States. Now, Lindsey Graham has disavowed his comments, but that only serves to make my point even stronger. Lindsey Graham is a senator of the United States, and if Trump, after gaining power, has co-opted Lindsey Graham, imagine the kind of influence that Trump might have over some alienated individual out in the hinterlands. Lindsey Graham once called the president a kook. Now Lindsey Graham is a kook. That amply shows the power that this president has, or any president, to become a positive or negative role model, to either serve as a source of decency and unity and health and balance, or to exacerbate the personal demons of individuals who are struggling to find themselves. And I'm not just talking about mass killings here. I'm talking about the whole continuum of cruelty. I'm talking about online bullying. I'm talking about schoolyard bullying. I'm talking about issues of domestic violence and compassion for one's neighbor, not only down the block, but across the hemisphere. If there's a silver lining in the tragedies of the past month, it's that it might cause us to recognize the Frankenstein that we have created, to look at ourselves in the mirror, to reflect on what we've created, and see if we can undo what we've done, either through the ballot box in 2020 or sooner through impeachment. I'm Jeff Rowan. Thanks for watching.